aka Feltsinlove. Welcome to my channel. I'm a needle felting artist from Nashville, Tennessee, and my channel is going to be basically tutorials on needle felting, paper crafting. I love paper crafting as well. Maybe some hauls from Dollar Tree, some crafty hauls, just a number of different things that I enjoy that I'd like to share with you. I have been married to my husband Barry for 39 years. Our 40th wedding anniversary will be in September. We have 3 beautiful boys, Wade, Lee, and Lawrence. They're the joys of our lives. We love them so much. If you're watching, I love you to the moon and back. And so with that, we'll just get started here. First, I want to say that the bases that I use for my creations are polyester batting that comes from Hobby Lobby. It's called Morning Glory. I prefer to use it because it is a denser fiber. Needle felts up very well, very quickly, as opposed to the wool batting. I'm also allergic to wool, so it makes it a little bit harder for a needle felting artist that mostly use wool. I do use wool from time to time on my creations. Usually I get it from specific vendors, Etsy, eBay, different shops that I know the wool is clean and it doesn't bother me as bad as some other wool. So I'm very selective in the wool that I select to cover, but I try to cover with other polyester type fabrics. Like I'll use felt, like polyester felt sheets, and I'll use a dog brush to brush the fibers out, so I'll be able to cover my creations with. I've tried dyeing this polyester batting. You have to have a special dispersed dye to do that. It's very smelly. It smells up your house really bad. But I have used it. I have used it on my creations. It works very well. It's just, you know, it's a big chore to try to dye your own polyester, but I have done that, and will continue to do that. But with that, we'll just get started here. And first of all, most of my creations I make are fairly small, between 2 and 3 inches tall. Anything above that, it's really time consuming, and I'm not a very patient person. So I'm an instant gratification type person. I like to see a finished product with a certain amount of time. I don't want to spend weeks and weeks on one single project. It's just, it gets boring to me after a while. So I try to avoid very large projects, but I do like miniature things. I've always enjoyed miniature things ever since I was a little girl. I always loved miniature items. So, and what we use is a needle felting needle. The one that I use is a 38 triangle, and it's based on these little barbs, if you can see that on the end of the needle. Different sizes have different amount of barbs on the end, and that's what ties the fibers together. When you punch the needle down into the fibers, it attaches with those barbs. So that's what makes the... Sorry for that interruption. This is my first video, so I'm very nervous, so please be kind in the comments. But I was just basically saying that it is the barbs on the needle that attaches the fibers together that creates a solid piece. The needle that I'm using, like I said, is a 38 triangle. There are a lot of different sizes. This is the one that suits me the best, that I like working with. It felts up very quickly, as you can see. I also, most of the time when you buy specific needles, they will have a color coded, usually on the end here it'll be painted, or they'll have some type of silicone coloring on that. But I find as time goes on that the paint or silicone actually comes off, and then you don't know which needle you have. So I have put washi tape on the ends of my needles so I'll know which one is my favorite, the one that I like to use the most. So that's what you'll see on my needles. And I like to needle felt the head and the body in one continuous piece. I have at the beginning, when I started needle felting years ago, would make, like most needle felters do, they'll make the head and the body separate, and they'll attach the head either by needle felting it on or sewing it on. I find that because you're basically just pushing these fibers together, that the air will separate those fibers after time, and you get a floppy, loose head if you just needle felt that on or if you sew it on. So I didn't like the way that turned out, so I decided I would sculpt all of my pieces together with the head and the body, so that way I don't have any floppy, loose pieces. I just never liked how they turned out after, you know, months go by and their heads start coming off, or, you know, just flopping over. I just never really liked that look, so I changed it up. I rarely ever see any needle felting artists do it this way, so I don't know if that's unique or not. I don't know if there's some out there and I just don't know about them. But this is how I process mine. And as you can see, it's just coming together as one big cylinder. The more you poke, the more it comes into a solid structure. I am wearing finger protectors. These needles will poke you and they are very painful when you get poked with them, so I would advise anyone that needle felts to use finger protectors, at least at the beginning. I know a lot of needle felters also will use a foam type base to lay their projects on and needle felt that way. I never felt comfortable doing it that way. I like sculpting, so it's better for me to actually be holding the piece. I'm able to turn it around and able to get more better sculpture out of it doing it that way. And so that's how I needle felt. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different way of doing things, and this is just the way I prefer it. But you can use the foam base if you feel more comfortable with doing it that way. This is just the way I feel comfortable in sculpting. I always was very fascinated with clay sculpting, but the clay is just so messy, and I don't want to deal with that much of a mess. So when I found needle felting, I ran across it one day. It was a Martha Stewart article in a magazine, and I was just blown away because that just filled a desire that I had to sculpt, but without the messy clay. So I was hooked right then and there, and I've been doing it ever since. And I've probably been needle felting for 10 years now. I know I'm not the best needle felter in the world. There's so many other talented people that I see every day that just blows me away, how wonderful their creations are, how realistic their animals look. I am not one of those talented needle felters. I'm like Jim Carrey in The Mask. Everything I touch is turns to cartoon. Everything I create is very cartoony, but that's fine. I like cartoons, and that's just where my mind and my hands tend to lead me to, is cartoon characters. So most of my animals, and I do make mostly animals because I'm not very good with the human palate. The palate of the mouth always seems to just throw me off, and I'm just not ever been able to really get that down. So I'm much better with snouts and muzzles of animals, so that's what I tend to stick to. And in my intro video, you'll see that's the case. I have bears. Yes, my intro video has mostly animals. That's what I tend to stick to, as you can see there. And also in my intro video, the music on that video is composed by my son Lee. He's a very talented musician. And Lee, if you're watching, thank you so much for doing that for your mother. I greatly appreciate it. I'm not a very good musician at all, so he did not get that trait from me, but I do appreciate it. He does do different composing for video gamers, and if you're interested in having any music for your channel or your videos, gaming videos or whatever, then I will link his contact information below. And as you can see, I'm getting more of a shape here. I'm going to add a little bit more to define the head. I just kind of wrap it around into a ball shape and just kind of define it where the neck, head, and body separates. I know a lot of needle felters now actually use wire armatures to create their animals or people. I've never enjoyed using wire armatures. Needle gets stuck in there, you break your needles off. I feel like you can't tightly needle felt it with that wire in there. And also, even though I do have small limbs and pieces that could potentially come off and be a choking hazard for children, I don't really gear my creations to children, but they are more children friendly than having a wire armature that could potentially poke, you know, children. I've never liked using them, so I never use a wire armature. Even though I don't use wire armatures, you can still, the way I joint the limbs on my animals, you can still move their limbs up and down. Not able to move the head. I mean, you can move it a little bit, but it's not, because it is one continuous piece, you're not able to really move the head about. But you just keep moving it around, just keep poking, just keep sculpting until you get the shape that you like. It is a very time-consuming hobby, but one that I enjoy doing. It's very relaxing. The crunching noise, as you can probably hear in the video, is very therapeutic for some reason for me. But it's just amazing how you can just take a little bit of batting and turn it into basically a stuffed animal. I always loved stuffed animals growing up. That was my go-to toy I had so many stuffed animals, and I always loved miniature things. So this just fulfilled a joy I had when I was younger, that I never knew this existed. So it's just been very enjoyable to make. I do have a eBay store where I sell my creations. It's also under Feltsinlove. I'll link that in the description box below if anybody is interested. I don't charge a lot for my creations. There's a lot of needle felting artists that sell their creations for sometimes hundreds of dollars. I don't do that. I want for other people to enjoy these little animals at a reasonable price, but still gives me a little bit of grocery money. As you know, groceries have gone up exponentially, so it's nice to have a little income coming in to kind of balance that out. So I don't charge a lot, but I do charge a little, just to be able to cover my expenses on shipping. I always offer free shipping. And if any of my customers out there are watching, hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. You don't know how much I appreciate your purchases. It really helps me out a lot. My husband and I, and my son Wade. My son Wade is 38 years old. He has special needs. He has epilepsy, Prader-Willi syndrome, and he's autistic. He's in the Special Olympics. He competes in so many different competitions, but his favorite is bowling and powerlifting. He's a powerlifter. He's been to the USA Games in New Jersey several years back, and he got 3rd place. He got the bronze medal. He's got tons of medals in his room. I've asked him if he wanted to be on my channel some. He's very personable. He's very likable. Everybody loves Wade, but he was afraid that people might make fun of him. I didn't think so. I told him that I thought people would love and accept him just like we do, but I'm not going to force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. So if he wants to at some point, we will introduce him to you. He is a joy. He's just a fantastic young man. He is very knowledgeable in so many different areas. He's like Rain Man. He knows everything about the 80s. If you ask him anything about the 80s, he knows all about it. I always said if I was on a game show and it was anything to do with the 80s or music or movies or flags or of different countries, he would be my phone a friend for sure. But then we're going to take a little bit more of this batting and we're going to make the body a little bit bigger. And as you can see, it needle felts up pretty quickly. The really time-consuming part is the face, the facial features, getting all that aligned is a little more time-consuming, especially on a smaller scale that I usually make. Hope everyone's doing well. I hope everybody had a good Christmas and a good New Year's. I think where I was going with before I started talking about Wade was that my husband and I and Wade all had the virus in 2021, and my husband was in the hospital for several weeks. He was in intensive care. His lungs have been permanently damaged, and he is on supplemental oxygen. Sorry. And he probably will be for the rest of his life. had lung damage, and so he's not working. So I think where I was going when I was thanking all my customers is, you don't know how much it means to me. It does helps a great deal in being able to help provide for my family. I do have a full-time job, 40 hours a week, but with just one income, it does make it a little bit difficult. So I do appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And we're almost there with the body. We will be covering this. I am going to cover this with wool, just to show you what that looks like, because that's what most of your creations will have. But I will also in future videos show you how I cover with polyester felt, my dyed polyester batting. Different videos, I'll show different processes that I use, different animals that I make. I also want to share with you how I make my boxes. I love paper crafting. I'm not very good at it, but I do love it. And I do make custom made boxes to put my little creations in when I ship them. So I wanted to share that process with you. And also how I make my little thank you cards. Just different crafts that I've come up with to help with my store and my selling of my little animals. I do put free gifts in there, and a lot of times it will be something that I've made, another type of homemade item, magnets, charms, just different things that I like to include in my packages to my customers. So I'll share a little bit of that with you as well. And as you can see, we're almost there. And there might be times when I'll fast forward and speed this up, because I know that you all don't want to just watch me poking some polyester fibers together for 30 minutes. So I might end up speeding some of these up. I just wanted to do this first initial video so you could see the process that I normally use to make my little animals. And I do take requests, so if anybody has a special request that they would like, they can always reach out to me on eBay, send me a message, and let me know what you might like. I have done people's pets. I've made ferrets, dogs, cats, rabbits. But of course, they're going to turn cartoonish. It'll be a cartoon caricature of your pet. But I think people enjoy them that way. But just want to forewarn anybody that thinks it'll be a realistic duplicate of their pet. It most definitely will not be. It will be a caricature of your pet. But I do take requests, so please reach out to me if you have any special request. I just need a picture of your pet, preferably a full-length picture, something that really shows the coloring of their bodies and their face. Okay, and that's basically where we'll stop at today. And in a future video, I will show you how I cover this and how I make the limbs and just all the different steps that I use to make my creations, and also the boxes and the embellishments that I use to ship these out. And so with that, I want to thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate you hitting that like and subscribe button. help my channel out as much as you can. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch my videos. And with that, we'll see you next time. Bye.